you want to introduce yourself and tell me how you're involved with the Muslim Jewish Forum?
Yes, my name is Graham Gordon, and I'm on the executive of the Muslim Jewish Forum of Greater Manchester. I've actually been very interested in interfaith relations my entire life. So, one way or another, I've been involved in interfaith relations probably since I was a very small child. And so, I'm delighted now to kind of develop that to a much higher level by being involved on the executive of this fantastic organisation. And also in my work, for many years I've worked with young people a lot through the Prince's Trust, which is now called the King's Trust, and also working on government contracts, further education, mainly in the voluntary sector, Job Centre Plus, stroke DWP, etc. And currently, I've got a little training company, Fit Limited, which is a not-for-profit training company, and one of its main aims is to bring people from different communities together to learn together, largely around the theme of employability. So um, the whole theme of interfaith work, particularly between Jewish people and Muslims, is something that really underpins almost everything I do. In my company, through me, I'm the person that delivers that. Delivers careers advice to a fantastic Muslim girls' school 2 days a week. So it became, when I became aware of the forum, I thought, hang on a second, this is something really that I should be very involved in. And very kindly, they nominated me onto the executive about 2 years ago straight away. And I'm really involved in it. And it's a fantastic organisation and more important than ever these days.
Yeah, how important do you think events like today are for for communities, for local communities? Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world which has caused tension, even in the UK. Do you think these things are more important than they used to be, or?
Yes, I mean, they were always, in my opinion, as I mentioned, I've been interested since I was a child, but they've always been incredibly important. But they are more important than ever now. They're more important than ever. Um, and I'm pleased to say I'm very friendly with the head of religious studies at the Muslim school that I work at. And when tensions rose in the Middle East a while ago, the very first thing she said to me was, "We have to stick together even more." So, in my opinion, and not that these things were not important before, but they're now even more important. Even more important. Um, we're in a multicultural society. There's lots of stresses and tensions, everywhere, including in this country, and that makes events like today much more important. Because what I've seen in my work is that the only way that you can very successfully break down barriers, if they exist, because they don't always exist, is by actually going into other communities and befriending them and getting to know them, sharing your culture as we're doing this evening. That is the only way. Combating tension and totally, completely unacceptable racism and prejudice. The way you actually do it, in my opinion, um, ultimately is through education. It's through education. And I know with some things I've done, people saying, "Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know this. It's interesting, etc." That is, I'm a great believer. You deal with things through being positive. And so, even though we're attacking everything in a positive way, it is more important than ever now.
Do you think that events like this bring communities together, Christians, Jews, Muslims, and having a meal? Do you think that's enough to help with these things, or do you think it needs to be a wider?
Well, it's a bit like saying, can you eat enough ice cream? I mean,
Right.
the um, you to a certain extent, you can never have enough of a good thing. So yes, you can say that it's kind of never enough, but the events like this, they're a start. I mean, for example, I've just met you this evening through this event, and hopefully, there's you're going to give a little bit more publicity to what we do. So events like this, because they're not just social, they're networking. I mean, I've made some new friends through being involved with the forum, the Muslim Jewish Forum, and that has resulted in us doing some things together outside of the forum. Just taking initiatives further in their line of work or whatever it is. So it's not just a question of whether these events are enough. I mean, you can't really have enough of this kind of thing, but they are a springboard to more things. I mean, you have a point because it's not. It isn't for me. It's not just we've come to this iftar. Hopefully, people seem to have had a nice time. We go home, a nice warm feeling. Go to work tomorrow. It's all completely forgotten. No, absolutely, that's not, in my opinion, that's not just the purpose. I mean, I have met some people this evening that I've never met before, and we've had some interesting chats and seen where we can work together on different things. So it's not enough, but it's a springboard to other things.
Amin made the point about the Muslim community in the UK being significantly larger than the Jewish community, and how you have like shared interests to work together, and also the Ramadan, as it's becoming more well known, is quite a good marketing opportunity for Muslims.
Mm.
Um, do you find that being able to sort of use that to also help promote interfaith relations with Jewish people is a helpful thing?
You mean Ramadan?
Yeah.
Yes, I think it is because I think it is because, as I say, in my school, I've done just kind of little, kind of very short mini lessons about the similarity of fasting, as we've seen this evening, and between the two religions, and it's very, very similar, and people are often not aware of that. And a pupil said to me on Friday, "It's so nice that there are these enormous similarities." So, yes, I think it can be a springboard for both religions to get together. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Especially when you, I mean, it's interesting. The speech this evening that Amen gave rather, about fasting in Islam, almost virtually all of it was totally identical to our laws on customs and culture. And people don't necessarily know that. So absolutely, it can bring us together. It can see the huge common ground that people are not necessarily aware of. Absolutely, yes.
What is Jewish fasting like? If you don't mind me asking, just for my own interest, as opposed because I understand Ramadan quite well. But
Sure. Well, it's more or less the same as Ramadan in that first we have about, I think it's about 8 or 9 fasts a year. Some of them are near each other, but they're not consecutive. But most of them are exactly the same as Ramadan in that they're during daylight hours. We don't obviously we don't eat, but we don't drink either, including water. In fact, we've got a fast day later this week. So the process of fasting and the time you fast is really very similar to Ramadan. And as we heard this evening from what I said and also from what Amin said, the whole purpose of fasting ultimately, because some of our fasts have different historical backgrounds, but the ultimate purpose is spiritual cleanliness, development, introspection, getting closer to the Almighty, and it's very, very similar. It's very similar.
how important is it to you to get other religions aside from Islam and Judaism involved in this organisation? Like you had a Christian speaker today, for example.
Um, that's a really good point because, as I say, a lot of the interfaith work that I've been involved in the past and in the present involves all religions. I mean, for example, in the past, some years back, I did a very, very big project for quite a number of years with the Baha'i community. So, absolutely, I like to see all communities brought together. That is a good point. In terms of the Muslim Jewish Forum, that was rightly created because of the similarities between the two religions. But it is important, and Christian, and there are other religions anyway, Hinduism, um, Sikhs, Buddhism, say, and Baha'i. There are other religions as well, but Christianity obviously is a very big Abrahamic faith. So I think it is good that we are involving Christianity in our work, even though originally, as I say, the purpose of the two religions. I think that is important. And as you've seen this evening, we do have Christians and people of no faith even who do come along to our events. And I think that's very, very important. Um, the um, so I was just going to say something about Christianity. I've lost it for the moment. Anyway, it is extremely important. Oh yes, I remember what I was going to say. It's come back to me. It's come back to me. If you go back to the roots of the forum, and this, it's absolutely a crucial point. The connection between Islam and Judaism are the fact that they are very similar. Plus, also, there's a very important aspect to this, and I've seen this a lot in my work in schools, etc. And this, well, it certainly applies to some other faiths as well, but not to Christianity, is that we are both, this is a really important point, we are both immigrant communities. My grandfather ran away from Ukraine over 100 years ago, and now, 100 years later, there's still issues in Ukraine. So he and the stories of him escaping were virtually identical to an Iraqi girl telling me about at school, telling me about her grandfather, I think it was, how he had to escape from Iraq. And the we do have a common history as immigrant communities, and I think that's really, really important. Whereas, as I say, the relationship, which is obviously still more than incredibly important, but our two backgrounds and our history in this country is obviously different from the Christian community, because this is a this is a Christian country, so they haven't necessarily got that. Well, they haven't as a community. Well, obviously got Christian immigrants, but as a community, that isn't kind of a big focus. But the Muslim community in this country, an immigrant community, even though there have been a few generations here, they've gone a little bit later than the Jewish community. And the Jewish community, I mean, as I say, my grandfather's from Ukraine. The Jewish community is an immigrant community as well. So that common culture and background, that's another very important thing which shouldn't be overlooked, that in particular brings our two communities together. And unfortunately, I'm a glass half full person, I like to look at the positive. But you made a reference to tension, because at the end of the day, if there's tensions with minorities, often all minorities are targeted. It doesn't matter which minority. And anybody, I think, who believes differently to that is being incredibly naive. So if the Jewish community is attacked, chances are the Muslim community will be as well, vice versa. So strength, together. So we should be also working together in order to combat total and complete unacceptable prejudice or racism against communities that have come from the outside. And that's a very important heritage that we both share. And that makes us different than the Christian community.
Might be a sensitive subject, but have you experienced any increase in prejudice since what's happened in Gaza, or has it not really come across that way?
Well, as I say, I'm focused on the positive things. I have to say, I mean, the short answer is absolutely not. Absolutely not. I can't comment about all the things, that's kind of your department. I can't comment about all the things that I'm offering in the press, the ordinary press or the Jewish press. But at the end of the day, absolutely nothing whatsoever. There has been no difference in my or my wife's lives in Manchester in the last 16 months. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. And if anything, which I've already made reference to, in terms of our relationships, mine in particular, and the work I'm involved in, and the forum, it's strengthened relationships, and that's also been mentioned this evening. And it's also mentioned this evening that we've actually had the highest attendance that we've ever had at the Interfaith Iftar, which says a lot. So no, I've not experienced it. I'm not kind of, you know, looking for it. I'm looking for positive things. But I really have a different outlook anyway, because my outlook is that we we have to extend hand of friendship. We have to get together. We have to do joint initiatives. We have to put our money where our mouth is. Which, yes, it is. That is a way of combating tensions, etc. But I'm concerned about the positive approach. And no, I haven't experienced anything. And at the end of the day, I don't have an issue anyway. If people have different views about any conflicts in the world, that for me is not an issue. That's not an issue. The only issue is where you get discord amongst communities. Um, Friendship amongst communities who have different views is not something that concerns me at all. And that maybe my approach is such that I'm less likely to get dragged into that kind of arena, where there's prejudice or disagreements that go off the rails, because I don't have an issue with people having disagreements. The issues come when they spill over into discord, disharmony, violence, heaven forbid, and inappropriate behaviour, inappropriate um, ideas voiced publicly, things like that. And I've not experienced any of that. But otherwise, um, people have different views. As far as I'm concerned, it's irrelevant to the work of the forum, and it's irrelevant to good relations. You know, we live we live in a free country, and as long as people are not behaving in an abusive way, that's a very important principle.